Amara left the supermarket with bags full of groceries, rushing home to prepare a festive dinner for her 40th birthday. Only close friends and their families were invited. Lost in thought, she stepped off the sidewalk into the parking lot and was suddenly knocked off her feet by a sharp push from behind. She fell, dropping the bags and scattering their contents, and screamed in surprise and pain. "Excuse me, lady. For God's sake, I don't know how it happened. Where did you come from?" The frightened driver helped Amara to her feet, clearly upset. "You almost ran over me. Who even gives such people a driver's license?" Amara exclaimed, rubbing her injured hand. "Well, you're good too. You should have looked around," protested the stranger. Amara gave him a fiery look, and the man lowered his tone. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Let me take you home and get the groceries now." The man began to collect the scattered items. Coming to her senses, Amara realized she was partly to blame for the accident. Softening her tone, she said, "You're right, it's my fault. I was lost in thought. This is the result. If you could give me a ride home, I would be very grateful." "My name is Kofi," the man smiled, extending his hand. "Amara," she replied, smiling back. On the way home, Amara and Kofi had an easy conversation. "Your husband is lucky to have such a beautiful, smart wife." "Unfortunately, I wasn't so lucky. My wife left me with a little daughter in my arms. That's how we live." "Do you have children?" Amara's face changed at the question. The topic of children was painful for her, having been married for a long time but never managing to become a mother. She replied briefly, "No, we don't have children. We've arrived. Thank you for the ride." "Have a nice day," Amara said as the car stopped at a large, beautiful house. "Amara, I'm sorry if I offended you," Kofi said, noticing her discomfort. "No, it's not you. My nerves have been fraying lately." "Thank you again," Amara replied. She quickly unpacked the groceries and started preparing dinner. As the table in the living room was almost set, and with little time left before the guests arrived, Amara called her husband, Kwame, but he didn't answer. Amara sighed heavily. Lately, Kwame had been staying late at work, often irritated by Amara's questions, claiming he had a critical project. Amara had gotten used to him not being home and learned to live with it. There was a doorbell, and on the intercom, Amara saw Ama and Kojo, smiling. They had been friends since college and were probably the only close friends of Amara and Kwame, who preferred not to let many people into their lives. "Amara, you are such a beauty. It seems like you're forever 25, no more," said Ama admiringly. "You're wonderful." "Happy birthday, dear. This is for you." Kojo handed Amara a beautiful bouquet. "And where is our hard worker? Is he not here yet?" "Well, you know, it's always urgent projects, meetings, and business for Kwame," Amara replied. "I don't understand how you can endure such a life. You're always alone. Maybe you should go to work. Kojo is looking for a new specialist, and as you know, finding a good architect is as difficult as finding a surgeon." "I remember you were the best in the course," Ama suggested, sensing the oppressive atmosphere. "I would be happy to, but you know that Kwame is against it," Amara replied. "Amara, forgive me, but I will say what I think. Kwame is selfish and you are foolish. Don't you see that he has turned you into a housekeeper and spends his time as he wants? It's so convenient for him," Ama expressed her opinion. "Well, my dears, I'm glad to see you. Please come to the table. As for Kwame, I hope he can join us soon." Amara tried to smooth over the situation, leading other guests to the festive table. After some time, when the company had eaten and were reminiscing about their student years, Kwame finally returned home. He smiled at the guests more out of politeness than joy. "Kwame, you could have come earlier today. We haven't seen each other for so long, and it's your wife's birthday. Where are the flowers for the hostess and beloved woman?" Ama couldn't remain silent when she saw Kwame walk in empty-handed. I am also glad to see you, but work doesn't wait. Kojo probably understands me, Kwame replied, showing his displeasure at the situation. I didn't have time to buy flowers, I was rushing. Amara, happy birthday. He handed her a jewelry box. Thank you, dear, Amara said, opening the box and smiling sadly. Kwame never bothered to choose gifts thoughtfully, he always gave her jewelry. This year was no exception. The atmosphere became more cheerful with Kwame's arrival, but his constant messages on his phone interrupted the conversations. At the end of the evening, after saying goodbye to Amara and Kwame, the friends left, and silence fell over the house. Amara began to clean up, while Kwame was absorbed in his phone. Kwame, don't you think that even when you're home, you're very far from it in your thoughts? Amara, don't nitpick. I'm working, okay? I understand, Amara said silently and walked to the bedroom, barely holding back tears. Despite being married, Amara felt very lonely and unwanted. Her father had passed away when she was young, and her relationship with her stepfather had never really worked out. Thankfully, Amara's friends never disappeared from her life, otherwise, she would have been completely alone. She remembered her conversation with her friends and seriously considered the need to start working to spend her time productively and not feel so lonely. The next morning, Amara woke up early and noticed that Kwame wasn't next to her. She had a bad feeling and knew something wasn't right. She peeked into Kwame's slightly open study door and saw him sleeping on the couch, hiding under a jacket. Her heart raced. After taking a shower and getting ready, Amara went downstairs to the living room. Kwame was sitting in a chair, staring thoughtfully at the landscape beyond the window, a cup of coffee in his hands. He didn't notice Amara's presence at first, but when she greeted him, he jumped in surprise. Kwame, you've been acting strange lately. Are you okay? You slept in the office. Are you avoiding me? Is there a problem at work? What's going on? Amara asked all the questions that had been bothering her. We need to talk, Kwame replied in a calm voice. Yes, I wanted to talk to you as well. I know you'll be against it, but I've decided to start working, Amara began, but Kwame interrupted her. I've fallen in love with another woman. She's pregnant, and we're expecting a child, Kwame said in the same mundane tone. Amara's vision blurred. She swayed and could barely stand. How long has this affair been going on? Was all she could ask. What does it matter? I found out about the pregnancy yesterday. If it's so important to you, Kwame said. Thank you for not ruining my birthday, Amara whispered, tears streaming down her face. Let's do without hysterics, Kwame said. Kwame, don't you care about my feelings at all? And what do you care about mine? I'm 40 years old and all of my acquaintances already have children. And what do we have? Kwame raised his voice, unaffected by Amara's tears. How dare you blame me for not having children? You know how much I've been through, how many doctors I've seen, Amara cried. Stop this spectacle. Why all this tragedy? Thousands of people get divorced and move on. I will soon have a son and finally be happy. Tonight, when I come back, we will discuss the details of the divorce, Kwame said and left, slamming the door behind him. Amara collapsed on the floor, crying from pain and humiliation. Kwame decided to visit his mistress, Zola, to let her know he had finally confessed everything to Amara, and that they would soon get divorced. He planned to legalize his relationship with Zola afterward. Using his key, Kwame opened the door to the apartment he rented for Zola, surprised to see her packing her things. I'm home. Why isn't anyone greeting me? And what's going on here? Are we going somewhere? He asked with a smile. Zola was surprised to see Kwame. Ah, hi darling, I didn't expect you so early, she said. So you didn't answer me. Are we going somewhere? Kwame asked, twirling Zola in his arms. The young woman pouted theatrically. Yes, we're going to your beautiful country house, where your wife is currently enjoying life. Well, dear, She has nowhere else to go for now. I have to buy her an apartment. Understand, I can't just throw Amara out onto the street, Kwame explained, frowning. But Zola wasn't listening. I don't want to understand anything. We're a family. There are almost 3 of us, and we are huddled in this miserable tiny apartment while she lives alone in a big house. Besides, our baby needs fresh air, and we're forced to live in the city and breathe this polluted air, Zola said, stroking her stomach for emphasis. You're probably right. Don't be upset. Don't upset our son. We'll move, Kwame said, his mind racing. Meanwhile, Amara was shocked by her husband's betrayal and couldn't gather her thoughts. After sitting on the couch for half a day, she thought it was just a cruel joke. Kwame will come and say that it's a prank, just a prank. Amara repeated aloud like a spell. The incoming call on her mobile phone made her tremble. She didn't want to talk to anyone, but wiping away her tears, she looked at the phone screen. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest. Kwame was calling, flicking her finger up the screen. She answered the call, but the knot in her throat didn't allow her to speak. Are you there? Okay, you don't have to say anything. Listen, I found you an apartment. You need to take a look at it, Kwame said. Amara didn't bother to listen further and simply hung up. She believed that such issues should be discussed face to face, not over the phone. Brewing herself a cup of herbal tea, Amara settled on the cozy terrace of her home. She loved the house they bought together and invested their souls in it. Now, Kwame, as if nothing had happened, as if all those years together had never happened, was saying he found her an apartment. Scoundrel, Amara hissed aloud, wiping away her tears. She tried to pull herself together, but happy memories of their married life wouldn't let her rest. She felt trapped in a broken state, seriously considering whether she should continue living with emptiness and loneliness ahead. Unnoticed by Amara, evening arrived. She was still lost in thought and didn't even notice when Kwame returned home. He found her and immediately got down to serious talk. Amara, what was that? You hung up the phone and didn't answer my calls. We are adults, after all. Let's part peacefully and amicably. I'm not holding you back, Kwame said. What do you mean? What don't you understand? I'm not holding you back. Go to your mistress if you want. I found you an apartment, so go there. I'm in my own home, and not going to vacate it for your mistress. In the worst case, we'll sell it and divide the money. I think that would be fair, Amara replied. Amara, this is actually a house bought under my mother's name, if you remember. Moreover, it cannot be sold as it is under mortgage, Kwame said. Excellent. Now I understand why you insisted on registering the house in your mother's name. You covered your back very well. Do you remember that I sold my apartment years ago and invested everything I had in this house? Amara retorted. I remember everything. That's why I'm telling you that I found you an apartment. You need to see it, and then we can finalize the deal and the divorce, Kwame stated. Fine, live here, but remember, you have to answer for everything in this life. For everything. And you will definitely answer for the pain you've caused me, Amara said. The next day, Amara went to see the apartment Kwame had found for her. Along the way, she remembered how happy they had been. How much they had gone through together to achieve what they wanted. What it had cost to arrange their home and how strongly she supported her husband. Amara had sacrificed her career for Kwame, helped him with complex projects. And now he had easily found a replacement. The main reason they were at the divorce stage was the lack of children. This topic was very painful. Amara had run around to the best doctors' offices, taken countless pills, and endured numerous injections, but all in vain. Doctors couldn't explain why she and Kwame had no children after so many years together. Kwame never directly blamed Amara for this problem, but he was sure it was her fault. Amara was pained to listen to Kwame talk about Aima and Kojo and their growing son. Lost in thought, She didn't notice she was standing right in front of the entrance to her new home. The apartment on the 5th floor turned out to be spacious and bright. Of course, it couldn't compare to a private house, but it was suitable for comfortable living. "Where I started once, I end now," muttered Amara. The next day, her suitcases were almost packed. She took only what was hers and sadly looked back at her home. Alas, she never found true happiness there. Kwame. What is she doing here? A woman's voice cried out behind her. Amara turned around to see a young girl standing in front of her, about 20 years younger, beautiful, and confident, easily mistakable for Kwame's daughter. Amara smiled, feeling a lump in her throat. She wanted to run away from these people but composed herself and calmly replied, "I am still in my own home, darling. And by the way, I am still your lover's lawful wife. As for what you are doing here, that is a good question. No shame, no conscience. Where do you all come from? Disgusting people?" Amara turned to Kwame. "I think I said that your mistress shouldn't be here before I left. She is not a mistress but the mother of my son. Stop the hysterics, it will lead us nowhere good." "We are modern people," Kwame said in a raised voice. "Very modern indeed," Amara laughed. "Kwame, you never understood people, and you are very wrong now. Look at her. There's a scrolling line on her forehead. I'm looking for a rich daddy." Kwame frowned but remained silent. Zola rolled her eyes theatrically and lightly touched her still flat stomach. Amara couldn't help but laugh. "Girl, what's your name?" "Dear Kwame, this girl is a natural actress. I'm certain that the surprises in your life are just beginning." Amara heard a sound of an incoming SMS on her phone and breathed a sigh of relief. The taxi had arrived at the gates of the house. Taking 2 large suitcases, she rolled them toward the exit. Kwame watched his wife leave with sadness in his heart. Something was bothering him, something unpleasant in his soul. At some point, he even wanted to stop this madness happening in their life, but Zola quickly resumed playing her role, sensing that something was wrong, and tried to shift the attention of the man she adored to herself. "Kwame, my dear, something hurts badly in my lower abdomen," Zola complained. The man quickly came to his senses. "My dear, you should not worry. Rest and stay in peace and quiet, as the doctor said. Remember?" he said, holding the waist of his beloved and gently sitting her down. Amara left the walls of her once beloved home, holding on to her dignity until the end. It was unbearable for her to see the woman who destroyed their family being treated with such tenderness and care by her husband. And what awaited Amara herself ahead, she was afraid to imagine. In the taxi, she let her tears flow. The driver sympathetically looked at her in the rearview mirror and eventually asked, "Are you okay? May I help you with something?" "I'm sorry, I just couldn't hold back my emotions anymore. It's just that my husband brought his pregnant mistress into our home, that's all," Amara replied, tears streaming down her face. "You know, but I'm not certain that such a beautiful woman can be replaced." "What a fool your husband is," replied the driver. "Well, where is that beauty?" "I'm already 40. He found himself a young girl," Amara responded. "Dear woman, you're only 40. It's the perfect time to love, live, and thrive. As for the youth, they've got nothing but wind in their heads. What's the use of their youth? I'm 67. Trust me, as an experienced man, everything will be fine for you. And when that happens, your husband will come back. But will you need him later? It may seem like the end of the world now, but believe me, you will soon remember this situation with complete indifference. You may even laugh about it later," the driver reassured. Amara was truly grateful to this wonderful stranger for his support and kind words. She listened to him, and hope for a happy future began to grow in her heart. In her first month in her new place, Amara arranged her life. The apartment in the new building was spacious and comfortable, but it couldn't compare to the cozy home where she had spent many years. Perhaps she would have gone crazy from loneliness and sad memories if it weren't for her childhood friends, Ama and Kojo, who supported her as best they could. Kojo took Amara on at his company without hesitation. Little by little, Amara settled into her new work environment, where she was greeted warmly by the team. When she received her first paycheck in many years, her happiness and joy knew no bounds. Ama was a frequent visitor to Amara's home, while Kojo, on his own initiative, stopped communicating with Kwame. The man only called once as soon as he found out what had happened, and of course, did not support his friend's betrayal. One night, Amara stayed late at work. There was an urgent project they couldn't seem to finish on time. Kojo was desperate, sure that the company would fail the project and the client would go to a competitor. But Amara, remembering everything she had been taught at the university for many years, worked hard and fixed the situation. Leaving the finished project on Kojo's desk, she left the office. It was quite damp and cold outside. The piercing wind blew through her coat, and she shivered from the cold. Oh, my bad. I should have caught a taxi in advance. Amara scolded herself aloud, looking around and spotting the headlights of a parked car on the other side of the street. The road was empty, so she decided to take a shortcut and cross the 4 lanes. A second later, a car jumped out from around the corner. The headlights blinded her, and she heard the squeal of brakes, stumbling out of fright. "You're crazy and probably tired of living." She heard a man's voice. "Is you who's crazy? Watch where you're driving," snapped Amara, fully aware she was in the wrong. "Oh, an old acquaintance." "Hello. The same people are always on the road," the mocking male voice continued, sounding familiar. The headlights still blinded her, and she couldn't see the driver's face. "Let me give you a hand." "I'll help you up." "Thanks, I've already been helped. My knees and hands are bruised. Tomorrow is an important day for me. I have to present the project to the client, and you've ruined everything for me." "What will the client think of me?" Amara said reproachfully. "And you should tell this person the truth that you're a frivolous person who often throws herself under the wheels of a car," replied the driver. "You're a bore. You're right. That's the type of person I am. Either way, get in the car. I'll take you home or leave the road, I'm in a hurry." Okay, I don't want to go in this state." "Take me home, it's your responsibility, because you practically hit me with your car." Amara quickly got up from the wet asphalt and plopped down on the passenger seat. When the driver turned to her, Amara exclaimed in surprise, "You Kofi? If I remember your name correctly." "Yes, that's me. I recognized you right away." "You're Amara," the man replied, and they both laughed. It was quite a coincidence that she almost ended up under the same car as a few months ago. "Well, I remember where to take you," Kofi said with a smile. But Amara smiled sadly in response. "A lot has changed in my life. I have another address now. You know, there are new apartment buildings not far from the South Bridge." "Yes, I know." "So, it turns out we're neighbors now," Kofi smiled. "Excuse my curiosity, but why did you move from a house to an apartment?" "My daughter and I dream of moving into a house. The air is cleaner there, and everything is different. I divorced my husband. He bought me this apartment, so I moved," Amara replied. "I'm sorry, but as far as I remember, you had a happy family not long ago," Kofi said. "It's all in the past. I couldn't have children with my husband, but his mistress got pregnant. Now they live in my house, enjoying life, while I'm in this apartment." "That's it, I've satisfied your curiosity. Let's be quiet, now I have an important day at work tomorrow." "I'm sorry, Amara. I didn't realize it was like this," Kofi said, and they drove the rest of the way in silence. When they arrived, Kofi smiled. "We're neighbors, I live across the street. I hope this isn't the last time we meet, but under different circumstances." "Thank you for the ride," Amara smiled. She fell asleep only towards morning, thinking about the work she had done on the projects and about Kofi. The man was handsome, and being with him felt simple and easy. Amara found herself hoping to meet him again, but under more pleasant circumstances. In the morning, barely opening her eyes, Amara looked at the clock and was horrified. I overslept. Oh, not today. She rushed around her apartment, trying to get ready as quickly as possible. Within 10 minutes, she was fully dressed, had managed to touch up her lashes, apply blush, and tie her long hair in a tight bun. She cursed herself for not calling a taxi in advance again, and now had to waste precious time waiting for a car. Good morning, neighbor. Amara heard a familiar voice behind her. Turning around, she breathed a sigh of relief. Kofi, help me. I'm late for an important meeting. She ran towards the car where her recent acquaintance was waiting. I had been working until late last night on a project, and it's critical for my future and the company's reputation. The boss says the client is very picky, and only I know the nuances of the project's execution. Therefore, only I can convince the customer that our project is the right fit for him. Well, how can I refuse a beautiful woman? Kofi replied with a smile. By the way, I'm also in a hurry for an important meeting. It's not far from here, where you almost hit me yesterday, remember? Amara pleaded with him. Kofi, anything you want. Let's go. As they drove up to the office, Amara jumped out of the car and hurried into the building. Kofi watched her with a smile. Who in his right mind would let such a woman out of his life? He thought to himself as he parked the car. Kofi headed toward the same office building. Meanwhile, Amara, panting, literally flew into the office. Kojo, have you looked at the project? I did everything I could and even more. There are some questions. Construction is planned by the river, and I solved the flooding problem like this, she said, showing the solution on the unfolded sheet of paper with drawings. For a few seconds, Kojo was stunned with admiration. Amara, you're a miracle. You did in one evening what my best specialists couldn't think of. My dear Amara, the client will be here any minute. All my hope is on you. Will you present the project? Kojo, of course. Don't worry, I'll do everything at the highest level, Amara assured him. Sorry for being late, a familiar voice interrupted. Amara could barely stand on her feet. Kofi, what are you doing here? She asked, turning to the voice. What a pleasant surprise, Amara. I suppose I'm the picky client who made you work late last night, Kofi smiled. At first, Kojo was tense, but seeing the friendly atmosphere, he felt relieved. Good day, Mr. Foy. And you, it turns out, are acquainted with Amara? Kojo extended his hand in greeting. Good day, yes. Amara and I are friends and neighbors. I'm sure I'll like everything in the project. Please, let's move on to the presentation, Kofi replied. The negotiations went on in a pleasant atmosphere. Kofi was impressed by Amara's professionalism. To be honest, I approached another company with a similar question, but their project was a failure. They couldn't think of the details of how to deal with possible seasonal flooding, but you, Amara, succeeded. But it's not just my merit. Our whole team has been working on the house project, Amara replied, a little embarrassed. I like everything, Amara. I would like to invite you to our site where the house will be located in the future. I also want to discuss some details. Will tomorrow suit you? Kofi asked. Amara blushed even more and looked at Kojo. Well, Amara, you have an excellent understanding with the client, so congratulations. You will lead this project to the end, Kojo smiled. All day, Amara was in a cheerful mood. Everything was gradually improving in her life. She hardly thought about her ex-husband, who had betrayed her. The way Amara looked at Kofi could not be hidden from her friends. Kofi himself did not hide his sympathy for the beautiful woman. Kojo, sincerely wishing Amara happiness, entrusted her with this project, understanding how important it was for her now. At the end of the workday, Amara left the office. Looking around, she felt like Kofi was nearby. And what are you looking for? Are you 20 years old? She chided herself aloud and prudently went to the regulated crossing. In the morning, as agreed, Amara was waiting for Kofi at the entrance. Amara hated unpunctuality, so when she spotted Kofi in the distance, she became indignant. "Hello, Kofi. I've been waiting for you in the rain for half an hour." "Hello. Sorry. For God's sake, but my daughter got sick. Her temperature rose at night. I haven't written down your number, so I couldn't warn you." "Our trip is cancelled," Kofi apologized. "Oh, I'm sorry," Kofi Amara asked guiltily. "Is there anything I can do to help? You know, I really need your help. I don't want to leave Naya alone. I need to go to the pharmacy." "Let's do it this way. You go home, and I'll go to the pharmacy. Write down my number if you need anything else. Call me. You can call me anytime. I'll always help. Now, tell me your apartment number. I'll quickly buy everything and bring it over." "You're really helping me out," Kofi said gratefully. 15 minutes later, Amara returned from the supermarket with a bag containing fruits and medicine bought from the list. "Take off your coat and come in, please." Nia fell asleep. "I made tea. You're all wet, and I wouldn't want you to get sick because of me," Kofi said tenderly, helping Amara take off her coat and inviting her to the kitchen. To Amara's surprise, the atmosphere in Kofi's apartment was quite modest. She knew the project Kofi was working on required a large investment. But from the situation in the apartment, it was clear he wasn't wealthy. Over tea, Kofi and Amara talked a lot, including about his daughter Nya, who was only 5 years old. The girl was born healthy, but a month later, doctors diagnosed her with a congenital heart defect. When the baby was 1 year old, doctors performed a successful operation, and Naya quickly recovered. A year after the operation, Naya had her first asthma attack. Kofi did everything he could for his daughter, but no one could cure her completely. The only thing doctors recommended was to take the child out of the city more often and change the environment. Fresh, clean air would certainly be good for her, and might even make the disease go away altogether. That's why I thought building a house now is the way to go. The only problem is that the house will be practically by the river. You're the only one who could solve that problem. Kofi, please excuse my curiosity, but what do you do? Where do you work? It must be difficult to raise a daughter alone." "You're both a mum and a dad to the little girl," Amara inquired. "Well, of course it's very difficult sometimes, especially when my daughter is sick. I'm terribly worried. When Naya is healthy, I take her to daycare and go to work. I'm a mechanic at a technical service station." "How do you manage to do everything?" Amara asked, impressed. "I'm used to it. I can't afford not to manage everything myself because there's no one else to take care of Naya. We're trying to do everything together. Now we're eagerly waiting for the construction of our dream home to begin. When it's finished, I hope everything will get easier. My childhood friend built a sawmill in the village not far from my plot. He says he really needs me as a good woodsman." "Wow. Do you understand this kind of work?" Amara was surprised. "Of course. My father did it all his life. We had a profitable wood processing business. By the way, I've been in this area since I was a child. But when my mother died, my father eventually met another woman and sold everything. I didn't even think about doing this business. I just wanted to leave for the city. My father gave me a large sum of money from the sale of the business. I graduated from agricultural college, know everything about forestry, and became a car mechanic because my profession wasn't in demand in the city. But I made good money, enough for me and Naya. I still plan to leave the city and do what I love." Amara listened to Kofi with admiration. She had never met such simple and sincere people in her life, except for Amma and Kojo, of course. Kofi shared a lot about his plans for the future, and Amara liked everything about him: his sense of humor, simplicity, way of communicating care, and attention. She especially liked his sincere eyes and smile. Kofi and Amara were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't notice Naya entering the kitchen. "Daddy, who is this lady?" Nia asked. "Nia, darling, how are you feeling?" Kofi smiled, turning to his daughter. "Come here, I'll introduce you to my friend. This is Amara. She lives next door to us and came to help us as soon as she found out you were sick." "Hello, Amara." "I'm Nia. Very pleased to meet you," Naya greeted Amara. "Naya, you're a very cute and beautiful girl," Amara said, looking at her new acquaintance with curiosity. "You're also very beautiful. Do you have a daughter?" the little girl asked. "Unfortunately, no. I would really like to have a smart daughter like you," Amara replied sincerely. "Well, if Naya agrees, I suggest we order pizza and watch an interesting movie. We have an unplanned day off tomorrow anyway," Kofi suggested. Naya clapped her hands with joy and hugged everyone. "Hooray! Will Amara also be with us?" she asked. Kofi looked imploringly at the confused woman. "Well, if you accept me into your team, I would be happy to join you," Amara said, stroking the little girl's unruly curls and really curls. From that day on, a true friendship blossomed between Amara and Kofi. Nia was pleased that Amara had become a frequent guest in their home. The friendly company spent time together, playing board games, watching educational films about animals, and often going to amusement parks and zoos. After spending months together, Amara could no longer imagine her life without Kofi and Naya, just as Kofi and his daughter couldn't imagine their lives without Amara. The house construction progressed rapidly. Kojo entrusted Amara with another complex project, which she handled brilliantly. The employees now consulted Amara on difficult matters, and she never refused to help them. One day, Kojo came to the office, acting differently than usual. Amara noticed and decided to find out what was troubling him. "Kojo, may I come in?" "I made coffee," she said, knocking on his office door with a cup in her hand. "Hello, Amara. Come in, of course." "You're always welcome," Kojo smiled. "Did something happen?" "You seem upset," Amara observed. "Yes, Amara, you're right. Something happened. Remember Kwame gave me some money? Well, he's having some problems with his business and other things. Zola seems to have given birth to a son, and he demanded the money back sooner than expected. And that's not all, Amara. He asked me to tell you that the apartment you live in 2 words, he has his own family and won't pay the loan for it anymore." "Yeah, that's to be expected. It was a surprise to me that the property was bought on credit, but Kwame promised to pay for it regularly. Once again, I believed him, and he cheated again. I'll pay back my debt within a week. I don't understand how he could do this to you. You've been together for so long. You sold your apartment and invested every penny in the house where he now lives with another woman." I really wanted to hit him hard, but this coward refused to even meet with me. He said I should put the money in his account, and since I supported you, he said we have nothing more to talk about. "Kojo, I'll manage. The apartment is in my name. I earn good money and have a wonderful boss, so I'll pay off the loan myself. Now I've learned a lesson for life. I was foolish, young, and didn't think it would all end like this. But he has a son now. You know Kwame always wanted children, and of course he should think about his future now." Amara sadly smiled. "Oh, come on. Do you still feel pity for him after all he had done?" "Oh, Amara, but anyway, you're not alone. Amma and I will help you. Our company's reputation has grown thanks to your efforts. That's why I've decided to give you a well-deserved raise." "Thank you, dear. Can I leave early today?" "Everything is done at work. I want to stop by the store on the way home. Today is my birthday. We've already picked out a gift with Kofi, we just need to pick it up." "Wow, you've picked the gift out with Kofi?" Kojo smiled. "Is everything serious?" "Oh, I don't know. I think I should trust fate if it gives you a second chance. Kofi is a very good person, and Naya is such a cute girl. They brought me back to life. Your eyes are glowing, Amara. Don't miss the chance for happiness, Kojo said, reassuringly. You're right. Trust fate. Thank you. I'm overjoyed that you and Ama are there for me, otherwise I would have gone crazy from loneliness, Amara replied. A year passed. Well guys, you did an impressive job. Your house is just amazing, and you calculated everything perfectly with the river. Now no flood can harm it. When are you planning to move in? Kojo admired the view from the house terrace, overlooking the river. Probably when the time comes, Amara said, rubbing her rounding belly and looking at Kofi with eyes full of happiness. The man hugged his wife and gently kissed her cheek. We have a little more to do. The workers are finishing the work inside the house, and that's it. Besides, Amara and I have decided to live in the city until the baby is born, and then we'll think about moving. Great job, guys. I'm thrilled for your new family, Kojo said. Oh, Kojo, I never thought a person could be so happy, Amara summed up. You're a bright example, dear. Kofi, don't hesitate to ask for help. I'll always help. Amara's family is my family. That's our rule, Kojo said warmly. Thank you, Kojo. Help will really be needed. I decided to get into woodworking. I'm like a fish in water in this business, so soon I'm going to set up production locally, Kofi shared. Wonderful. But I won't let Amara go. Don't even dream about it, Kojo laughed. Don't worry, Kojo, I won't leave you either. You and Ama have helped me so much. I remember kindness and value our friendship, and I enjoy my work. And money won't hurt us right now, Amara replied with gratitude. All right, enough about business. Let's go see Ama and the kids. They're probably missing us, Kojo suggested. When they returned home, they saw the children playing with a ball, while Ama was setting the table, having prepared treats in advance at home. By this time, the life of the abandoned and cheated woman was gradually getting better. The apartment issue was resolved, thanks to a lawyer hired by Kojo. Thanks to the decent payment for her work, Amara diligently paid off the mortgage on the property. She married Kofi 6 months after they met, and Naya was pleased to have a mom like all her friends. They developed warm, trusting relationships that many girls could envy. Kofi adored his wife and appreciated her contribution to raising his daughter. Naya was happy that she would soon have a brother or sister. Together with Amara, they went shopping and bought various baby items for the future sibling. Amara could no longer imagine another life without Kofi and Naya. One day, when Kofi went out of town, Amara went for a planned appointment to the woman's consultation. Ama kindly agreed to stay with Naya, especially since her son Tommy was eagerly waiting to play with his new friend. Amara left the doctor's office in a good mood. The baby was developing well, the heartbeat was normal, and despite the future mother's age, no pregnancy pathologies were detected. As she left the clinic, Amara decided to go to the mall and look for toys for Naya and Tommy. However, an unpleasant surprise awaited her at the shopping center. She came face to face with her ex-husband, Kwame, who froze upon seeing her pregnancy. Amara, how? Yes, my wife didn't grieve for long. Glad to see you, the man stammered, unable to express his thoughts in his surprise. Hello, Kwame? It's not your business at all. I heard your son was born. Congratulations. I'll say it's good to see you, but it's not. I need to go. Goodbye, Kwame. Mara replied coldly and continued on her way. Kwame stood still for a while, watching his ex-wife walk away. When he returned home, his little son ran to meet him, while Zola sat on the couch in the living room, all her attention focused on her phone. Hi, Zola. Are we going to have dinner? Kwame asked from the doorway. Zola gave him a dissatisfied look. I asked you to transfer money to my card. Did you forget? She asked, ignoring his question. Zola, is that all you want to say to me? You've been acting strange lately. Is everything okay with you? Kwame probed. I'm not strange, Kwame. I just don't like it when you ignore my requests, Zola retorted. This is not a request, it sounds more like a demand. I'm having difficulties at work. We need to be smart with our money. Not spend it recklessly, Kwame said, frustrated. You've been married once to someone who handled the money wisely, and how did it end? I need to update my wardrobe. I don't want to look like a slob like her, Zola snapped. Shut up and don't you dare talk about Amara. You're not worth her little finger. If it weren't for our son, Kwame didn't finish and went to the playroom with the baby. Realizing she had gone too far, Zola went to the kitchen to prepare something for her husband's dinner. Kwame tried to calm down, focusing on his son. But what the 2-year-old had told him left some doubts in his mind. The little boy shared with his father how he spent his day, mentioning that he had ice cream and played with his uncle. That night, Kwame put off the unpleasant conversation with his wife, but asked what they had been doing. Zola vaguely replied that they had stayed home all day. At night, Kwame couldn't get Amara out of his head. He noted to himself how good she still looked, and how pregnancy suited her. The thought that his ex-wife was happy with someone else drove him crazy. A sudden wave of unfounded jealousy overwhelmed him again and again. The next day, Kwame went to work as usual. Unexpectedly, he said to Zola as he left the house, I sent you the money you asked for on your card, so update your wardrobe. After hearing these words, Zola smiled and literally jumped on her husband, wrapping her arms around his neck. My dear, thank you. I love you, my love, she gushed. See you tonight, said Kwame, carefully pushing his wife aside and leaving the house. That day, the man did not go to work. Instead, he decided to follow Zola to see if she would really go shopping with their son. Soon, he was very disappointed. As soon as Zola left the house with their son, Kwame followed cautiously, not wanting to be noticed. It was immediately alarming when his wife went to a residential area of the city, parked in front of a 10-story building, took their son in her arms, and went inside. Kwame patiently waited for her to come out, which didn't happen until closer to the evening. Zola exited the building accompanied by a young man carrying Kwame's son on his shoulders. Kwame barely contained his anger but didn't reveal himself. He wanted to get to the truth and began to have doubts in his head. Meanwhile, Kofi and Amara finished building their dream home and planned to spend the weekend there with their friends Kojo and Ayama. Kofi, I'm going to my apartment for a minute. I need to water the flowers. We won't be here for a few days. Can you handle it yourself? Maybe take Nia with you. Amara suggested. Yes, my love, of course. With Nia, we'll do it faster, Kofi agreed. Nia deftly watered the flowers, humming a tune to entertain Amara. A sudden knock on the door surprised them. It's probably Daddy. Please open the door, dear. But first, ask who's there. Amara instructed the little girl. Okay, Mama, Amara, I'll be right there, Nia said, running to the door. She asked who was there and, hearing a stranger's voice, immediately called for Amara. Looking through the peephole, Amara was surprised to see an unexpected guest. Kwame, what are you doing here? Amara asked, opening the door. We need to talk. I'm a fool. Forgive me. I apologize for what I've done. Let's start over, please, Kwame pleaded. Amara looked at Naya and smiled. Naya, go check if we watered all the flowers together. I need to talk to this person for a few minutes, she instructed. The little girl nodded and disappeared behind the door of the room. Kwame, are you out of your mind? I have a different life now. I'm expecting a child with my beloved. Once upon a time, you said you were finally happy and about to have a son, remember? Well, now I understand what you meant. Kwame, I'm finally happy. I have a daughter, and another child is on the way. I don't love you. I let you go a long time ago, and no, you can't. I was a fool. I'm divorcing Zola. She lied to me from the very beginning. She was with me for the money. My son? He's not mine. It's all a long story. I did a DNA test. Zola gave birth to a son by another man. And the worst part is, All this time while I wasn't home, she was spending time with the boy's biological father. Zola provided for her lover at my expense, and I'm all alone now. Forgive me and come back to our home. Remember how happy we were together there? I will love your child as my own. I will be lost without you, Kwame begged. Amara looked at him with pity. Now you understand how I felt when you betrayed me. But Kwame, let's be honest. I was a faithful wife. I never betrayed you. You destroyed everything yourself. So it turns out that the fact we didn't have children is not my fault at all. Kwame, you got what you deserved. But it came back to you like a boomerang. Leave and never dare to come here again. I will never come back to you, Amara stated firmly. Kwame was in despair. The apartment door opened, and Kofi appeared on the doorstep. He had unintentionally overheard the conversation. Dear, you and Naya were gone for a long time. I decided to check if everything was okay, he said. Kojo and Ama have already arrived and Tommy couldn't wait for Naya, Kofi added, looking sternly at the uninvited guest. And what are you doing here? Actually, I bought this apartment. I have the right, Kwame replied. Oh, what a wretch you are. This apartment belongs to my wife and only to her. Have you forgotten what it means to be a man? What other rights do you dare to claim here? Kofi sharply interrupted. Kwame, it's better to leave. It's all over, Amara said. Kwame couldn't hold back a tear. He sincerely regretted his actions, realizing he had lost his happiness and destroyed everything himself. Turning around, he slowly headed for the exit. At the doorstep, he turned back and unexpectedly said, Forgive me, Amara, and you. He turned to Kofi, Take care of her. There is no one like Amara in the whole wide world. Don't worry, I won't miss my chance at happiness, Kofi replied coldly. Closing the door behind the guest, he turned to Amara. Are you okay? He asked. Yes, everything is fine, Amara replied, closing her eyes with pleasure in her beloved's arms. Nya, it's time for us, Amara called to the little girl, and the three of them went to their home. As the happy family cheerfully left the building, they had no idea that a lonely man in a car opposite was watching them, gripping the steering wheel tightly. It was Kwame. He just sat and watched Amara and her family disappear, knowing that he would never have her again. 3 years passed. A company of happy people came to spend time together by the river in a cozy paradise. Kofi and Kojo were busy at the barbecue, while Tommy helped Naya teach her younger brother how to ride a tricycle. Amara and Ama watched their loved ones from soft lounges by the riverbank. I look at my loved ones and can't believe how happy I am. Ama, it's scary to even imagine how I would live without them, Amara confessed. Oh, Amara, I don't think it could have been any other way. You deserve your happiness. Don't be offended, but I even envy you in a good way. Every day spent together is like a honeymoon. You loved, and he can move mountains and more for you, Ama replied. Yes, Ama, you're right. It's like wings sprout from your back. Kofi is a great man. He has his production set up, and work is booming. By the way, I'm almost finished with the project for your dream house. So we'll live nearby and see each other more frequently, Amara said joyfully. Girls, the meat is ready. Let's eat while it's hot, Kofi called. Kojo watched the approaching beloved women and couldn't hide his excitement. Kofi, we're lucky to have them, Kofi said, smiling as he saw the beautiful and cheerful women approaching. Amara thanked fate for everything that had happened in her life, the good and the bad. Now she knew what real family joy and love were. The life of a deceived woman, abandoned in a moment, changed fundamentally, precisely when she least expected it. Nothing happens for no reason, every meeting is for something. It's important to recognize the signs of fate correctly, so as not to miss happiness passing you by. Every day. Looking at how her beloved husband Kofi played with the children, and how happily they laughed, Amara thanked God for the chance at a happy and carefree future. She loved and was loved and now knew for sure that life could start even at 40. Amara's story illustrates the importance of self-respect and resilience. Despite the betrayal and heartbreak caused by her husband Kwame, she found the strength to rebuild her life. No matter how deep the pain or betrayal, there is always hope for a brighter future if you believe in yourself and never give up. Her journey teaches that true happiness comes from within, and that it's possible to find love and fulfillment after difficult times. This story emphasizes the value of moving forward, letting go of toxic relationships, and embracing new opportunities for personal growth and happiness.